What's going on, everybody? Dogman Dan here. It's time to talk about the DEX SYBARIS, and we're going to talk a little bit about the regular SYBARIS too, but mostly we're focusing here on the DEX SYBARIS, the anniversary weapon, 3-year anniversary weapon, if you will. 5 Forma into it, so let's kind of talk about it just a little bit, where it comes from. So the main SYBARIS in-game, which is a clan tech weapon, is a mastery level 5 weapon. So if you've never played it, you've got to get it from Clan Dojo, and it is a Mastery 5 lock weapon. So it is a great burst rifle, one of the best ones in the game, if not the best one based on how you want to play it. I do have, when it comes to the SYBARIS, I do have a preference though, actually, of my Tiburon, which is something we can talk about too. I still love my Tiburon, but I think the DEX SYBARIS right now tops all the burst weapons in my opinion. This is a burst fire lever action rifle. It basically fires 2 bullets in quick succession. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It is a burst fire weapon. We've got high damage, very long range, and good accuracy. Very high critical chance, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. Very low recoil, and the burst fire spread is pretty small. Okay, nice. I think it's a good magazine size. It's a step up from the regular SYBARIS with a 14 versus a 10, so I'm liking that. And it does obviously have a slightly higher base damage, but the numbers are different in terms of how it plays, where the DEX SYBARIS has higher slash, but it has lower puncture and impact. However, there's a lot of different offsets, and I'll show that to you here in a minute, which makes it much better to play with, I think, overall. And I'm shocked to see this weapon as a 3-year anniversary weapon, you know, with terms of how they put it together. I think they did a great job with it. So there is that, and it is a fun weapon to play with. So hopefully you got it for the 3rd year anniversary, at least on PC. I know consoles will be getting it soon. By the time this video comes out, they still won't have it, but you'll have it soon. So get yourselves ready for it. And then if you missed it and you're around the next time that there's an anniversary, it'll probably show up again. But with that said, let's get into how I have all this stuff set up. Okay, so over to, let's just do this one more time. I know I did it a while back, but let's do this anyway, just to show you differences here between the DEX SYBARIS and the regular SYBARIS. As you can see, the DEX SYBARIS has a higher slash, but has lower puncture and impact as opposed to the SYBARIS. But the SYBARIS gets a little lost in some of these other things in terms the reload is better on the DEX SYBARIS, the magazine's better, fire rate's better, critical chance is better. So yeah, but the accuracy is still the same. So I first would base my build off of the SYBARIS, and then I moved from there. Now I played this so many different ways that I've come up with a couple different setups, and then the ultimate setup. So I'm going to show you A, B, and then C would be the one that is most likely that everybody's going to live with. Each one has its own pluses and minuses to it. Now here is a pure critical with damage build. Okay, so I'm just looking number wise and what it can do. We go with the straight serration, split chamber, heavy caliber, not all the way up there. I never felt like I needed to fully max this, and leaving it at 135 plus damage and negative 45% accuracy actually still leaves me in a good accuracy level with this weapon. So I still get a nice medium long range out of it, not like full long range, but since it's got such a small spread on the weapon, it's actually quite nice. And I'm going to use shred here for 2 reasons. One, I need the punch through because I love punch through. Okay, I love being able to go through enemies or go through the doors when the doors close when you're already shooting something. Punch through, I think, is important. We're not talking puncture. Puncture is different than punch through. Punch through, you're going through the enemies. Puncture, you're puncturing usually like their armor or that type of stuff. So there is a difference. And of course we need the shred here, the 30% fire rate increase, because with my critical getting it to over 100%, which means you will red crit, I also lost fire rate. So in order to offset some of that fire rate, I need the shred. And when we're looking at that, you're looking at your point strike, obviously. You need to have that. And you have critical delay, so that gives you the 48% critical chance more. Topping you over at 104.3 damage does allow you to do some red crits Just it doesn't do it all the time, but it allows it enough that it's kind of cool when you see it happen. But you see that negative 36% loss, so the 30% fire rate gain means we only lose 6% off of the base, which to me is awesome. We're keeping it the same 14 magazine, more than enough. We're going to add Hammer Shot and Vital Sense. So Vital Sense, pure critical. We're going to add critical damage here, and then more critical damage on top, giving us a 5.6 multiplier. I'm not worried about this per se. The status chance, yes, it brings it up from 18 to 24%, but mostly for the critical multiplier is what I'm looking at. And I have the same 5.6 on my regular SYBARIS, and I just love that. Okay, we're getting decent numbers out of it, so that's not a problem here. And this weapon is going to work well. I mean, I used it even on that the 2 times I ran the DE Troll mission there for April 1st, and I used this particular setup, and it worked out well. I did enjoy it. So you can get up there with the enemies with this pure crit and damage. Okay, but again, we're thinking about fun. Now, moving on to number 2. Okay, this is going to work out as well. It's a nice setup. We've got pretty much all damage and some element on here. We're not focusing on critical chance, so there's a big difference in how the weapon plays. Okay, so again, you're going to have the same 4 up top as always in this setup. These are kind of like the 4 mandatory based off of how I'm playing. Yeah, there's other ways you could probably do it, but these are how I'm playing it. Okay, and then I'm going to throw in obviously Crash Course, 120% more impact damage, and Fang Fusillade, again for 120% more slash damage, which brings up these 2 numbers significantly. And then we're just going to use High Voltage Malignant Force, get a nice corrosive. It's going to bring up our status chance a bit, but we're also going to increase our fire rate tremendously, which is actually going to work out really well in terms of just straight up damaging. That 5.42% or second damage or fire rate, whatever you want to call it, works out really nice with this setup. Though, you can change these around a bit, but we don't have much to work with. We got to stick with the 5, so 4 Vs and 1 dash. We go any more than that, then we mess up the front end build, the first build, or you potentially mess up any further builds. And I really don't like going 5 Forma because it doesn't leave me a lot of room to work with. So I would never do more than 4 of the same type as you see here. And again, this is going to work out pretty well in some situations. I actually tend to prefer this critical chance on top of just the regular base damage than the straight up damage. But in the end, I actually ended up pretty much just building it like my SYBARIS, and then it still has higher numbers as over the base. So in the end, this is where I end up with as my favorite setup. Again, Serration Split Chamber, Heavy Caliber, Shred. Gotta have that punch through. Once you've played with the punch through on this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You gotta have the punch through. Then we're gonna also add Corrosive, a really nice number Corrosive here with just the 5 Forma. So Malignant Force, Stormbringer. You can swap that around if you've got the High Voltage, and then you can put, Infected Clip. Whichever way you want to do it there, you can do that. And then of course, I'm just gonna use my Point Strike and Vital Sense to get my critical at 87.5% with a 4.4 multiplier. And overall, this is going to work out solid smooth on pretty much anywhere you want to take it. So keep that in mind. And of course, you can change this element to whatever you want to make it. If you wanted to go more Forma, you can go more Forma. Put another, maybe another dash slot in here. Then put Infected Clip. Bring up that Corrosive even higher. However you wanted to do it. But this is just, one of 3 different ways you could potentially play it. And I think ultimately you'll end up with something that's very similar to this, where you can get a lot of base damage, you can get your critical damage, you can get some elemental damage, and it kind of all combines into one. But you know what? I do encourage you to try out the A. Try out pure critical. See what you think about it. It's actually quite fun in this particular weapon. Try out pure damage with a little bit of element. Actually quite fun in this particular weapon. So there's other different ways you could do things. So again, if you have comments, questions, please do feel free to below. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Until then, we'll see you soon.